What's your forecast for 2025 in terms of Chinese engagement in Africa? What are you expecting, and what are you and the team at Development Reimagine talking about with your clients and partners?
So I will just go over it from looking at sectors. I think it is very, very clear from anyone following China-Africa relations that energy is a big issue, but it's going to be front and center. And that is, when I mean energy now, we're looking both traditional hydrocarbons, renewable energy, those kind of investment, but also tying that to green development. If you recall, the 9th article on the list of 10 in the Beijing Action Plan has green development as being a priority. And there will be a lot of movement in that direction because it ties to even another action plan, which is the Industrial Chain Cooperation. Knowing fully well that with Trump's administration, pressure is going to build on China. And of course, I'm trying to invest in certain areas in Africa more, at least prioritizing those investments to offset any loss that will be coming in their engagement with United States, possibly even Europe. So if Africa can be to CATL, BYD, what Africa was to Transion, the Chinese will be very, very happy. You understand? Because if you remember, Transion was a small company and then it came to Africa and just became a unicorn in a very short period of time. Why? Because we already had African countries could absorb that because there was already investment in telecommunications. So cell phone penetration became easier. Their Chinese phones are competitive, and then of course Africans can buy those phones. They already have cell towers to operate them. But the problem with electric vehicles or new energy vehicles is that there is no base load to charge those vehicles, right? So the energy poverty makes it difficult for China to say, okay, if we can't export BYD to Europe, let's export to Africa, right? Let's open up Africa. You can't open up the continent like that because people can't charge. Even if you can sell the cars and they can manage the roads, the infrastructure is just not there. The cell towers, the 3G, the 2G component that Africa has already built before Transion came, we do not have that in terms of energy infrastructure. The continent still has that energy poverty. So that is why going forward, I see there will be a lot of emphasis on trying to build up the energy base on the continent, particularly in markets that are ripe or near ripe. Like even Southern Africa, the electricity situation in Southern Africa is probably the best next to North Africa and in East Africa, right? So these markets, Ethiopia, South Africa, we just saw a news regarding EVs from South Africa recently that will be facilitating Chinese investment in the EV sector. Namibia, for instance, Botswana, these countries that have good energy access compared to other parts of the continent. I won't be surprised if we're seeing more action there to try to build up, so that as we're seeing those tariffs being slapped on Chinese vehicles, BYD and the likes, they'll be able to offset those with the African continent. That's one. Second, and lastly, I also think the issue of infrastructure development and finance is still going to be prioritized because it still remains part of the commitment, at least in the messaging we're hearing from China. Yeah, it might not be those multi-billion-dollar investments. The money might not come as quickly as they used to, but that is still going to be part of the conversation because whether we like it or not, apart from the fact that the need is there and there's common understanding with both sides, those set of projects make China-Africa relationship look very, very good. And it might be more difficult for the Chinese to do. It might be more painful for them to do it now than it was, or more difficult to do this type of investment. But it would add to the political messaging, to bolster the political messaging. It will be good for the continent. And again, it will be good for them to also get those exports demand from the continent, right? So I think those are the two main ones I want to highlight.